start, as always, with a question that came in advance. We'll take the one about happiness, since it's Happiness Day. And it says, what is the key to true happiness? As I was saying on the Ganga Ghat during Aarti, when I first came to India and Rishikesh 25 years ago, I was so struck by how happy people were. I had been raised in a world where we were really told, here's what you need for happiness. You need this type of education, you need to get these grades, you need to have this type of a house in this area of town, you need to vacation at these resorts, you need to look this way in the right clothes, you need to get invited to the right parties. There was this whole happiness equation. And I came here, and I looked around, and Rishikesh was not nearly as developed 25 years ago as it is today. And I looked around at people living so far below the Western standards of poverty. People, it was so clear, we would say, they are poor, they are poor. And yet, two things were true. First of all, in their mind, they were not poor. And so if you referred to them as being poor, they would very quickly correct you, nay, hum garib nahi hai, we are not poor. Wo log shayad garib hai. Maybe those people are poor, but not us. And it was staggering because to me they were objectively, unequivocally poor. But in their minds they were not. And it wasn't that they were comparing and contrasting bank accounts or income. It was a felt sense experience in their lives that did not coincide with not having enough, which ultimately is what being poor means. You don't have enough. The other thing that was so powerful was their answer to how are you was always, it's God's grace. Ganga ki kripa, Bhagwan ki kripa, Pujya Swamiji ki kripa. And it amazed me. People sweeping the road. Bas, Ganga ki kripa. Women walking in the Himalayas with firewood on their heads, back home to cook the one meal a day their family was going to eat. Bas, sab Bhagwan ki kripa. And it impacted me so deeply because the world I had come from was full of people who had everything, and yet there was always something that we felt like we didn't have. And it varied from moment to moment or person to person, but I had never met anyone who at pretty much any time in their life could say, bas mast, tripped ho gaya. And here were people who had really next to nothing. And every moment, they were full. And so I really started paying a lot of attention. I'm a scientist. And I started paying a lot of attention once I could see clearly again. And what I realized is that their source of happiness didn't come from external things. It wasn't about what they owned, what they bought, what they had. It was all about a connection to the divine. An inner happiness. An inner experience of being one with fullness, one with infinity, one with the divine. So how could you possibly lack in any way if you're one with the divine? It's like that story of the man who's looking for God, really wanting to find God. And he roams here and roams there, roams everywhere, not finding God, and he's depressed and miserable. And he collapses on the shore of a river. And suddenly out of the river, this fish jumps up out of the water. And the fish starts flapping around in the air, saying, "Water, water, water. I need water or I'm going to die." And the man says, "You stupid fish. Like, you live in the water. You're surrounded by water. There's nothing but water. But now you've come out of the water. You're flapping around, crying for water. Just go back in the water." And the fish says, "Same is true about you. You're crying for God, you're looking for God, you're roaming around for God. But you live in God, and God is in you. Stop focusing externally. Go back in, like you're telling me, go back in the water, so I'm telling you, go back in." So over the last 25 years, in this beautiful and really fun mix of science and spirituality that I get to move through, I would say that the real source of happiness is a decision to be happy. Look, we all could be miserable. I am sure that if we went around this garden and I said, give me the one thing that's not right in your life, the one thing that makes you upset, I guarantee you, every one of us will have that. It could be our height, our weight, our skin color. It could be our boss who never is satisfied no matter what we do. It could be our spouse or our parent who is never satisfied no matter what we do. It could be our neighbors. It could be the city we live in. It could be that the universe took a loved one from us recently, or a long time ago, but we're still suffering from it. It could be anything. There's always an excuse, a reason to not be happy if we want. And as long as we've convinced ourselves that we can't be happy until all those reasons are over, we will never be happy. Happiness is not that which happens automatically when you have successfully removed every source of possible annoyance or dissatisfaction or sadness from your life. It's not a byproduct that just appears in the space once you've satisfactorily gotten everything out of your way. Happiness is that which we choose. Every minute and every moment. Yeah, my weight might be wrong, my height might be wrong, my skin color might be wrong, people might be mad at me again. My job may not be how I'd like it to be, whatever. And I can be happy. It doesn't mean we're complacent. It doesn't mean that we have said, I'm not going to try to change anything. We've been given free will. We've been given agency. We've been given initiative, creativity, to serve, to work, to change things. But we have to stop thinking that we will only be happy once we have changed things. I can be happy right now, long before the world dances according to my tune. Long before everyone does what I want them to and treats me how I want them to, acts how I want them to. I can choose happiness. And I think that's the greatest key, is a really conscious decision. That I have the source of happiness, the source of love in me. And regardless of what is happening around me, I can choose to be happy in this moment. And that doesn't mean that I don't notice or see that there are things that I need to work to change. Hunger in the world, oppression in the world, poverty in the world, climate change. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. And in the face of all of that, I can be happy, not complacent, but happy. And that happiness, I think, if we're going to look at tools, I would give you 3 tools. The first is just this very conscious choice every day. In the morning, I choose happiness. So many of us move through our lives like we're victims. We wake up in the morning and it's like, oh God, the same situation. Like the universe did not come in overnight with a magic wand and suddenly fix everything that was wrong in my life. So we wake up with this, this again. But instead, if we wake up with the awareness, I'm not a victim. I get to choose what this day is like. Not the weather, not the traffic, not the stock market, not other people's moods. But I get to choose my experience in the world today. That is entirely up to me. And I am going to choose to have a beautiful, joyful, peaceful, love-filled day. So that would be daily tip 1. And if you need to stick a note on your bathroom mirror or on your refrigerator, do it. Or on your mobile phone. We probably see them before we see the mirror or the refrigerator. And the second and third are the 2 things I mentioned in the Ganga Arti. Gratitude. So many of us naturally think that the order is, first that which I want to happen happens. Then naturally I'll be happy. And when I'm happy, I'll be grateful. Right? I mean, I want you to do something for me. You do it. I feel happy. Then I say thank you. Right? It seems like the natural progression of things. But it's actually backwards. And it's one of the reasons that so many of us aren't happy. We're waiting for that which we want to happen so we can be happy and then grateful. But all of the science now, and there's been a lot of money, a lot of research, a lot of hours put into this. It's not, I'm happy, then I'm grateful. It's actually, I'm grateful, then I'm happy. Gratitude actually breeds happiness. Now most people think, well, my God, if what I want to happen didn't happen, what is there to be grateful for? But you don't have to be happy or grateful about this exact moment of what didn't happen. Can you see out of your eyes? Can you see the sunrise? Can you see the sunset? Can you hear the voice of your loved ones? Can you hear beautiful music? Do you have water running out of a tap in your house? You turn on a tap and water comes out? Do you have food in the refrigerator, in a cupboard, in a store down the block that you have money to buy something from? Do you have someone in your bed, in your home, in the world who you love and who loves you? Do you have legs that carry you into the bathroom when you wake up? If you've got all of that, you are more blessed than the overwhelming vast majority of people in the world. Are you free? Are you free to worship God by any name, any form, in any way you would like? Are you free to love other people in whatever way, whichever people you would like? If so, you are more blessed than most people on this planet. So there's a lot to be grateful for. If we can start being more grateful, we'll find that we're happier. So people talk about gratitude journals, gratitude lists. Yeah, they don't have to necessarily be on paper. I have a gratitude practice in the morning. I don't get out of bed before I think of 5 things that I'm grateful for. It's just a beautiful way to start the day. I don't write them down. I could, but I don't. Develop your own practice, however it works. But be grateful. And then the other is this aspect of what through me rather than what for me. This service to others. Because what we have found is altruism actually brings joy. And again, they've done all kinds of scientific studies, all kinds of research. You give people $20, $100. Half of them you tell them to go out and to buy whatever they want, have whatever fun they want. The other half you tell them to go out and use that money for someone else. The half that used that money for someone else are far and above happier when they come back than those who used that money on themselves. And it's just been proven over and over again in so many different ways, so many different laboratories. And it's so counterintuitive because we think the more I have, the happier I'll be. But the science proves the opposite. The more you give, the happier you'll be. So try it. Of course, you can always go back. It's not like you can't ever go back to your old ways. But give it a try. Give it a month. For a month. Wake up every day and before you get out of bed, think of 5 things you're grateful for. Before you go to sleep at night, think of 5 different things you're grateful for. See whether throughout the day you can just remember to be grateful. Before you eat, before you drink water. All day long. And see how much you can give, how much you can serve. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. But from what I've seen in my life and from what all of the science shows, it works. Our happiness is in our hands. Beautiful. Does anyone here have a question? Yeah.
So much. I know life is complex generally if we see, and we have to really struck the balance. How do we struck the balance between what we are doing for the materialistic world and what we need to do for the peace of mind? You know. So my question is basically
I get it.
everybody's running for the rat race. Where to stop? What is the time to look back and start serving, as you rightly said?
Beautiful. So, how much time do we dedicate to the rat race? And where is the appropriate mark along the way to stop and dedicate spiritually? I would say, as long as we're living in separation, we're never going to be satisfied. So if I say, okay, I'm going to dedicate 8, 9, 10 hours a day to the rat race. It's my job. And I'm going to dedicate half an hour, 1 hour to my spiritual practice, and this much time to my family, this much time to my friends. The dilemma with that is that our spiritual practice becomes relegated to only one part of the day. And what we're doing in the vast majority of the rest of the day, this rat race, goes against the principles from my spiritual practice. So the goal is not, you shouldn't work, you should be poor, you should beg for food, but rather, how can I live in the grihasti phase of life when I'm supposed to be out there earning a living? How can I live that life as my spiritual practice? So it's not my spiritual practice is over here and my job is over here. Or my spiritual practice is over here and my grihasti life is over here. But how can I, in my job, stay grounded and anchored spiritually? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that that which you are doing as your job is something in alignment with your spiritual values. Sometimes people say, well, yeah, I know I'm in this horrible business and we oppress women and children and we're polluting the air and the water. But, well, I make so much money and then I donate it to charity. It's not, it's nice to donate money to charity, but that's not the way we're supposed to be doing it. Find a way to earn a living that's in alignment. There's nothing in our scriptures that says, thou shalt not make money, thou shalt not do business. There's nothing like that. We have the whole Varnvavesta system that includes doing business. But doing it in a way that it's not a rat race. In a rat race, we're all rats. Doing business, this art, when we talk about Purusharth, the 4 goals of life. Well, art, this prosperity, that's not separate from the goals of life. It's there, it's part of it. But it's not prosperity at someone else's loss. It's not prosperity that requires me to step on someone's head to get ahead. It's not prosperity at the sake of women, children, the environment, my employees. It's a system. Business is a system. Economics is a system that helps our society run. It's beneficial to our society. Do business, do good business, no problem. But don't do anything that makes you feel like a rat, regardless of how far ahead you are. If at the end of the day you feel like a rat, तो फिर कोई मतलब नहीं है. There's no amount of money you can spend to stop feeling like a rat. So do business in such a way that at the end of the day, you feel good about yourself. But even as you're doing it also, we're able to bring our spiritual practice into our day-to-day life. How to see the divine in everyone we meet. Employers, employees, colleagues, clients, partners. How to realize that whatever we're doing is just, this is our dharma. It's our dharma on this particular cosmic stage, at this particular scene and act of God's Leela. But then, of course, there is a time when we stop. This is what we refer to as Vanprastha ashram, right? When the grihasti phase is over, our children have grown. They no longer need us to be bringing home the bread. And this is the time that we start to pull back from that, to start dedicating more and more of the actual hours of our day and our attention to sadhana, to seva, rather than taking more. It's the time of our life when we start giving more, sharing more, experiencing more. And so if you're wondering when to stop, really very practically I would say, do you have enough? Is there enough? Is there enough for you? Is there enough for your children if they're not earning? Not, is there enough for all of my greed? You know, Gandhiji said so beautifully, there's always enough for everyone's need, but never enough for any man's greed. So it's not, well, if I just earned a little more, then I could have the big version of the flat screen TV. But do you have enough? Is there food on the table? Are there clothes for winter? If somebody needs medical treatment, is there money to take care of that? You know what's enough. You don't need me to tell you. And when there's enough, that's when we say, okay, enough. If you wait until you don't have any other desire left, you're going to be accumulating things till you're on your deathbed. But this is where we speak about gyan. It's where we speak about vivek. To have that discrimination, to say, yeah, I realize every commercial, every billboard, every advertisement is telling me I should have more. But when I look inside, tripped ho gaya. There's enough. I mean, as Pujya Swamiji always says, how many pairs of pants can you actually wear? How many beds can you actually sleep in? How many cars can you actually drive? So that's when we stop. But even as we're fulfilling that grihasti phase, to allow our spiritual path to be that which is flowing through it. So it's not grihasti over here, spirituality over there. It's my spiritual path is infusing my grihastashram life. And ultimately that's the point. Wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, a very happy World Happiness Day. And look so forward to seeing you tomorrow. Sorry for the late start tonight. Those of you who were with us in the Ganga Aarti, we had a very overflowing with exuberant happiness Aarti that just kept flowing and flowing and flowing, and hence we started a bit late. So apologies for that, but look so forward to being together again tomorrow.